So, good news, gents. We all know we're black. Let me hand out the passes.
I mean, I think
There
I
you
actually
go.
should have a pass, to be honest.
Probably, to be honest. But yeah, so we've always been black, Brits and English.
How did we end up with blue eyes?
Good question.
Oh, probably the Anglo-Saxons. Right?
Good question. Yeah, who were also black. So we were black back when we were Cheddar Man.
Yeah.
We were black when we were Roman citizens.
Oh, yeah.
And we were black back when we were Tudors. These are the narratives that we have been told over and over and over again. There are lots of strange books.
So is it about like 1800 we become white? What's in the leftist
I don't think we
narrative?
ever did.
Oh, right, okay.
It's very strange that there are so many people of English descent who are white, actually, given the historical record that I've been taught.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to talk about today, which is the some of the evidence for it. I know we've spoken somewhat in the past about Cheddar Man and then the narrative surrounding the Tudors as well. There are books about that. But today I want to talk about one that Bo's quite familiar with as well, which is the Ivory Bangal lady. Ivory Bangal lady.
I don't know anything about this.
Who is a woman from the Roman times, during the Roman occupation of Britain, when we were Roman Britain, who may have been from North Africa, which means that she wasn't Levantine or Arab or anything like Phoenician, anything like that. It means she black.
Yeah,
because one of the most amusing things about leftists is that they just see all of Africa as sub-Saharan Africa. It's not like there's this gigantic desert stretching across the northern part of it that separates the peoples or anything.
Black woman goes to Italy, black. Goes to Britain, black. Like, it's just all black.
Yeah, that's just how it works. Yeah. That's just how it works. Genetics really are quite impressive that way. But first, watch The Death of Man, Carl's documentary. It's doing very well at the moment. Very glad to see. This is the first in this kind of documentary-style format that we're going to try to do a little bit more of. And so far, it's been received very well. Premium content, subscribe to the website for as little as £5 for access to that.
I've got a great review of it from the comments.
Oh, go on.
Quote, "This was a spectacular dive into the spiritual degradation of the human condition. I'll probably need to listen to the second half 2 or 3 times to fully grasp the depth of the tragedy of modernity." Oh, I know.
Well,
I haven't got any good news. I'm sorry.
Well, if that doesn't make you want to watch it, then nothing will. So yeah, we get this narrative with all people of European descent that Vikings weren't all white, is what peoples are going to be told. This is a charity guidance. Vikings were very diverse. Forget the fact that there is no evidence for this whatsoever.
And on this one, maybe we should let them have it. Yeah, so a bunch of very diverse people came and ravaged England. Yeah, agreed. We've been here before.
Yeah, it's not true though, is it? With the Vikings. Of all the peoples of Europe, like the people in like the top northern part of it, where it goes into like the Arctic Circle, maybe the most isolated of anybody.
They're so white, they're almost blue.
Yeah.
They're so white, it's almost transparent.
Yeah.
But no, they're black.
And yet
they're
still
black. Okay.
very closely related to the English people, so therefore, given the English are black, must also be black.
Do you remember when they found a Muslim ring? A ring with Islamic scripture of Allah on it? They're like, oh, they're Muslims too. Yeah, I agree. They're diverse Muslims who are ravaging.
I mean, they traded with Muslims.
Of course they did. They raided Muslims. They raided everywhere.
They traded with them. So of course, there's some stuff's going to show up. It doesn't actually mean that.
No, they were diverse Muslims, mate. I don't know what you're talking
all right, Carl. Your diversity is showing through right now, Carl.
I'm not saying I'm in favour of it. What I'm saying is, it kind of makes them look bad.
Just because there were, I mean, there's Charles Martel, Muslim armies in France in like the 8th century or whatever. And trading with the Muslim world ever since the age of Muhammad, more or less, or the generation after. That doesn't make Vikings brown,
obviously,
or black, or whatever. It's just pure nonsense. Yeah, and this is
Cheddar Man was one of our favourites.
Nonsense.
It's pure nonsense. The thing was with this that I think they looked into the genes or isotopes or whatever that express skin colour, and they determined, shockingly, that he must have had darker skin around this kind of skin tone. Of course, then it came out a month or two later that the technology that they were using was basically so inaccurate as to be meaningless.
Even if it was true, that doesn't justify anyone else from anywhere in the world having any claim to this land.
Because it was...
exactly that. Even if their skin tone was that, which it wasn't,
But
that doesn't justify infinite Somalians today.
Well, the thing that I mentioned in a discussion about this on the Daily Channel was that, well, okay, he was slightly darker skin, and then his descendants all developed slowly over the course of 10,000 years lighter skin.
Because the important word there is descendants.
Yes, and that does not mean that any of us are descended anywhere in the last 10,000 years directly from sub-Saharan Africans who... I mean, I take a little bit more of the separate origins thesis than the out of Africa thesis, because out of Africa consistently seems to be disproven when new evidence comes out.
I've no idea, but I don't care if, like, 300,000 years ago, humans came from Africa. Look, bro, in the last, 2,000 years, a lot's happened, so let's focus on that, shall we?
Just to be clear, that skin shade was just completely debunked as wrong.
Yeah, it was done for political reasons. Yeah.
But people still reference it to this day. They'll still mention Cheddar Man.
Was it Tom Booth who was involved in this? I'm going to refer to Survive the Jive, Tom Rousell, guest of the show, who's spoken about this. I believe it was Tom Booth, who's like a archaeologist or geneticist, who's explicitly written in academic papers of the need to, without saying it explicitly, falsify history and falsify genetic histories to avoid the rise of nationalist or far-right narratives. It's all done purely as a counter to people who say, well, the English and the British are a distinct, separate ethnic group from other people.
Loads of people in the field are quite open about saying that sort of thing.
Political.
Yeah, purely political.
Well, you can't even speak of the Anglo-Saxons in some departments because you might end up with a nationalist. Yes.
Well,
Crazy.
they even
Crazy.
wanted to change in Anglo-Saxon studies. They wanted to change it to Old English rather than Anglo-Saxon to avoid it. It's like, but how does that change it? It's still
the same people.
Yeah, but it's still English sounds more nationalistic to me. Anglo-Saxon sounds less nationalistic to me. But anyway,
Tom Rousell, friend of the channel Survive the Jive, was explicitly involved in those conversations about particular departments. I think there was one in Cambridge, just run by complete globalist, anti-white psychos, saying you can't have a genetic past. Effectively, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
But this is the one that we'll talk about right now, which you can see there are narratives
African
with
Queen.
this one going all the way back to 2010, reported on by the allegedly right-wing newspaper Daily Mail. So this must have been some red meat for the gammon?
I have no idea.
So giving some background on this is the Ivory Bangal lady.
Sorry, look at that opening line. Forensic researchers revealed that multicultural Britain is nothing new after discovering black Africans were living in high society in Roman York.
It's a pretty definitive statement.
I mean, that is remarkable.
And we have, from the Yorkshire Museum, these ideas based on her skull morphology, interestingly enough. I thought no genetic differences between people. How are our skulls different? Either way, they predicted that she may have looked like this. Okay, North African, maybe. Does that look like any Phoenician that you're familiar with?
Not really.
No. I feel, again, like Cheddar Man, they might have gone out of their way to say, Africa, that where black people be, we'll make her as dark as possible and make her hair nice and curly. Because, again, like, before the Arab conquests, North Africa wasn't even really Arab anyway, was it?
No, it wasn't.
No. So that admixture's much more recent than Roman times anyway.
North Africa, if you go way back to, you go back to Carthaginian times or even before, settled by Phoenicians who are from the Near East, modern day Tyre, right? Modern day where Lebanon, Israel is.
Yeah, literally in Lebanon.
Yeah. And then you've got, they were taken over by Visigoths for a long time, who are from Northern Europe.
Yep.
And then the Romans, obviously Italian. And then
that's where the non-white mixture comes in there.
And then the Arab conquest, obviously from Arabia. None of it is sub-Saharan African.
Obviously.
It's as simple as that, really, isn't it? But what they're saying here, A study of the remains and artifacts from the 4th century at the Yorkshire Museum showed North Africans were living there thousands of years ago. Again, there's the conflation between North Africans and Black Africans.
Yeah.
The most exciting results came from the analysis of the so-called Ivory Bangal lady, whose remains were found in 1901 in the city's Sycamore Terrace. The research used modern forensic ancestry assessment to show it was likely that she was of North African descent and may have migrated to York from somewhere warmer. Again, when you're part of this enormous multi-ethnic empire, the largest empire in the world, certainly at the time, I don't think it's that unusual for people to be migrating if this research is accurate in the first place. And also, the argument that is used is, see, Britain has always been diverse and multi-ethnic. And I would make the argument, well, this isn't even really the story of Britain. This is the story of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire was large and multi-ethnic, yes, with people migrating and travelling.
Yeah.
But as soon as the empire fell, all of a sudden, all of those territories went back to being much more mono-ethnic. Even Rome itself did, following the fall of the empire, because everyone who was foreign scuttled off back home.
Yeah. The Romans left basically zero genetic imprint on Britain, right? So if we didn't know from the historical records that they were here, you wouldn't know looking at the genetic evidence. So it's
minimal, certainly.
almost nothing. Life in 16th century England was not easy. Things were very different to how they are now.
Again, this just completely failing to account that North Africans are not sub-Saharan Africans.
I mean, they literally said she was a black African at the beginning. That's not true.
I've mentioned Zinedine Zidane. Whenever this comes up, I always mention Zidane.
Yes.
The Berber.
And you showed me a picture of him, and he had blue eyes and looked like he could have come out of London, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, not modern London.
He's no more
English London.
His skin tone is no darker than anyone else in the Mediterranean. It's like less olive than an average Greek person, almost. It's like...
Yeah.
It's not...
He looked whiter than Carl, to be honest.
It's not sub-Saharan black. It just isn't.
Yeah.
They're Mediterranean people, right?
But that doesn't help. Like, facts and reality doesn't help for internationalist, globalist, anti-white narratives, does it? So this was fun. The study carried out by University of Reading's Department of Archaeology senior lecturer Dr. Hella Eckert said, up until we have had to rely on evidence of such foreigners in Roman Britain from inscriptions. However, by analysing the facial features of Ivory Bangal lady and measuring her skull, dangerous territory there.
Oh, that works now, does it?
Yeah.
Phrenology's cool all of a sudden.
As long as it means that you're black.
Yeah. That's literally what it is, isn't it?
Analysing the chemical signature of the food and drink she consumed and analysing evidence from the burial site, we're able to establish a clear profile of her ancestry and social status. We're looking at a population mix which is much, much closer to contemporary Britain than previous historians have suspected. It's always been this way. Nothing has ever been different. Diversity has always been our strength, especially when we were being subjugated by a foreign empire.
And I tell you what, they're gonna do research on my bones and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna analyse what he was eating. Oh my God, he was Indian. Oh God, no, I just like a curry, man.
In the case of York, the Roman population may have had more diverse origins than the city has now. Wait, so the diversity went down?
Yeah.
But I thought if we'd always been diverse, that doesn't add up.
Funny, if you look at the literary record, if you look at Caesar's conquest of Britain or Tacitus's Agricola...
Well, yeah, they're direct reports of those people.
There's no mention of...
pale skin.
Yeah, there's no mention of what would have been out of place sub-Saharan Africans. None.
And you think
no mention of it
you
whatsoever.
think that would have come up as well?
Yeah.
Because they enjoyed their ethnographies.
Yeah,
and
loved it. Yeah,
I really enjoy reading ancient ethnographies. They're really interesting because they're like, the people are weird looking here or something like this, right? And yeah, they just give a fairly accurate description of what it is they saw, And yeah, you're right. There's the Britons were like painted in blue and had pale skin. Not one African among them. weirdly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would have some argument of that about it being a whitewashed, colonial, Eurocentric narrative, something along those lines. But this narrative's been pushed for a long while, and it's always clear what exactly they're doing this for. So this is
a communist outlet.
Yeah, this article from 2023 starts with this passage. There were Africans in Britain before the English came here. Reveals the opening line of Peter Fryer's acclaimed book, Staying Power, The History of Black People in Britain. Well, yeah, also, it wasn't England before the English came here.
But also, either. African is a very broad statement.
Yeah. And also,
the Egyptians were here, were they?
Modern Britain as well, Britain as it was up until the mid-20th century, right? Who built that? Was it random North Africans?
I've heard it's literally everyone but the English.
Yeah, I have a feeling it might have actually been the English.
Yeah,
but there's an example of the kinds of narratives that's just saying like, oh, you have no more right to this territory because that's all it is. It's just a patch of land, it's territory than anybody else in the world. And in fact, actually, if you look at our history, they were here before you were. Bear in mind, don't bear in mind that they were just subject citizens of some foreign empire that were
who left when the empire left.
Yeah, who were left when they left here as well. And here you go as well. This one, Ivory Bangal Lady, Black Lives in Roman Britain. Beau's favourite Roman historian, Mary Beard. Here we have an article that Beau wrote about her. This is an accurate picture of Mary Beard and what she looks like. This is her day-to-day makeup. She, in this, is quoted... Oh, also, here's David Olusoga, writer of the book Black and British. Definitely.
White people have had a presence in our history for centuries. Get over it. Yeah, it's the same in Africa, actually. White Europeans have had a presence in Africa for centuries. Get over it.
I mean, who built Rhodesia? Who built South Africa?
Who can actually make a claim to having built something there?
Yeah, so the discovery of Ivory Bangal Lady's remains fully unearthed that people of colour could have been more than enslaved or merchants, their only presumed roles in the early 20th century. Fast forward 100 years, the controversy doesn't end there. Professor Mary Beard, a leading classicist, was attacked on social media when she confirmed that there had been black Romans in Britain using Ivory Bangal Lady as crucial evidence. This had derived from the political football started when a children's cartoon on the BBC had displayed a black person in their short on Hadrian's Wall.
Literally no evidence for it.
Again, trying to falsify history. So you've got Mary Beard, a leading classicist, somebody that gets all of the television appearances, lying to you for the sake of a political narrative.
Well, if you go to that article by the acclaimed BB Dade,
off of
lotuseaters.com,
would you call him a leading classicist?
A leading classicist.
Yeah, top of his field.
I say she's not a historian, she's a partisan.
Yeah.
She's just a partisan shield for globalism.
She's also, not just globalism, but every aspect of globalism. She wrote a little book about why feminism's great and how women need power for some reason.
Well, that's what this article was critiquing.
Oh, was it?
Was specifically that.
Yeah. So aren't you a historian? Get in your lane.
Yeah, so, and then you get, Sky History and other places just saying that Ivory Bangal Lady, the multiculturalism of Roman Britain, not what you thought you knew, etc. So the question then comes is, okay, so what they did was they measured her skull, which I thought was very, very racist,
really funny.
And checked the isotopes of her teeth to determine the kind of foods that she was eating when she was growing up, and determine some other things about the likelihood. So it's basically an educated guess using that stuff. The likelihood that she was North African.
So not black.
Not black, but North African, but they'll still say black anyway. So the question is, well, we've got much better genetic testing now than we did 15 years ago.
She's not Hyperborean, is she?
This would be actually a perfect way of determining for certain what the origins were, okay? And friend of the show...
This is going to be another Egyptian pharaoh issue, right?
Friend of the show, Tom Rousel, was talking recently about this, and he said back in February that in 2021, York Museum announced they were collaborating with Skoglund Ancient Genomics Lab, based at the Francis Crick Institute, and would confirm the ancestry of the Roman-era skull from York called Ivory Bangal Lady. By 2023, Pontus Skoglund's lab had sequenced her DNA, so they had an answer, but hadn't even put a preprint out. He said he was looking forward to seeing what was published, and you can see back in 2023 he was chasing this up. Has your laboratory analysed the DNA of Ivory Bangal lady? Say yes, but the work's ongoing.
The work of massaging this is going to be just like Tutankhamun. It's like, oh, he was pale with ginger hair.
They're like, oh god,
Genghis Khan, ginger hair. How is this happening? What is going on?
Okay,
Why is every ruler in history pale with ginger hair?
What they needed after 2023, I assume, they got the spin doctors in.
Yeah.
They got the spin doctors in.
It's been 2 years. We've got to get a narrative.
How do we work this? And then,
I've got it. Albino.
Yeah, there you go. As of this morning, this is what inspired this. Tom posted this saying the DNA of the allegedly African Roman in Britain called Ivory Bangal lady had been sequenced by 2023, but Scotland and Francis Crick Institute held off from publishing it because it was going to be included in a large study of over 1,000 British samples. However, this project is no longer on the upcoming project page, and you can see the link here to that project page.
Right.
It's gone now.
Oh, yeah.
It's gone. They're not promoting it anymore.
Interesting.
So it turned out she's white and they've buried it.
And
is that what is happening here?
And there's no mention of anywhere of what was discovered about this sample.
That's fascinating.
Tom says that if he had to bet, she wasn't African.
Yeah.
But, the fact of the matter is now, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
I guess Ivory Bangal lady, one of the, like Cheddar Man, one of the prime examples that this narrative of we've always been multicultural, accept your replacement, anti-white narratives, etc. One of the foundations of this, guess you'll just never know.
It's not really that
it didn't
important,
matter. It never mattered. If you care, why do you care so much?
Why do you care? Yes. You're bigoted even for keep wanting an answer.
Yeah, listen, just because it mattered incredibly to us because we hate
right up until this point,
doesn't mean that you should care about it, bigot. So that's the information. So it turns out Ivory Bangal lady never mattered. Never mattered. We'll never know.
Absolutely fascinating.
Next move, chuds.
It's so predictable, man.
Yep.
If the mechanical world is just that, mechanical, how does it become transcendent?
Galileo, Boyle, Newton, and many others saw themselves as recovering this lost wisdom.
Technology had sufficiently progressed to reveal that mankind and the Earth he inhabited was not actually the center of the universe. It threatened to upend their entire body of cosmological knowledge.
The process of distinguishing science from superstition had begun, and the great minds of the era dedicated themselves to this work.